Welcome to Rotary. With your unique skills and perspective, you are joining a global network of problem solvers, drawn together by a desire to make a difference. Together, we can be bolder. When you share your ideas and connect with others, it's not just your community that benefits. You'll grow as a leader and feel a shared sense of purpose that comes from finding lasting solutions to big problems. Get involved in a way that's meaningful to you. Find a mentor. Sign up for a training. Volunteer in a service project. Or attend a global event. You are now connected to 1.2 million people of action who unite to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. Welcome to Rotary.
And welcome to the Rotary Club meeting for March 15th of 2023. I'm your president, Raymond Foster. We're going to go around the spokes real quick. Before we do that, though, let's just, I want to say a few brief things about what we had going this weekend. I don't know about anybody else who was present, but we're all pretty tired. It was our resupply drive for 29 Palms, 22,000 active duty military families, 213,000 National Guardsmen, reservists, and 1.2 million veterans suffer from food insecurity. There are food pantries on many major military bases, including 29 Palms, which is the nation's largest military base at 1,500 square miles, the size of Rhode Island. And this weekend was our resupply drive, and wow, we had a great time. First off, we had 80 volunteers present from organizations from the Chinese American Parent Association. We had kids from 3 high schools, San Dimas High School, Diamond Bar, and Walnut, Diamond Bar Women's Club, American Legion star posts everywhere. If you look there in that top photograph of the 6 women, the one in the, where is she? She's going to be on she's going to be on stage right there, or stage left, actually. She is the national president of the American Legion Auxiliary. So 80 volunteers, and they did a lot of work. We collected over 5 tons of food and supplies, and we took them out to 29 Palms yesterday, or Monday, and had the Marines help us unload, and we deposited a check with them for $5,000. We raised a total of $15,000, so more than 5 tons of food and $5,000 in pocket for 29 Palms. I think that was a really good job by everybody, and I sincerely appreciate everyone's help, especially Glenn, who's on the line with us, because Glenn was with me every step of the way. Tried to beat me there Monday morning, didn't you, Glenn? But you just couldn't do it.
I tried.
I was there at about 5:45 a.m., and Glenn was right in behind me. So first up, let's everybody introduce ourselves. Glenn, go ahead and introduce yourself, brother.
Glenn Johnson, charter member of the Satellite Rotary Club.
And Casey Cox.
I was thinking maybe I'll first introduce myself as Steve Scott, local insurance agent. Anyway, or maybe I'll introduce myself as Mike Wallace, local broker and real estate agent. But today I'm Casey Cox, health coach, life coach, and making life better for people around the world. Loving to come alongside and help people deal with what's going on the inside so they can show up better on the outside. Never used that tagline before, but I like it. I think I might go with it again. Former president here of this Rotary group, being dragged into the possibility of doing that thing again. Raymond's setting me up, and I'm so grateful that Steve's on my side. But glad to be here. Jimmy, I'm looking forward to what you have to say today. So thanks for choosing to be here with us.
Thank you, Casey. And when we go down to Action 360 and the Find Master, I want you to find yourself at least $5 and tell us that new thing you've got going on, that group coaching, because I want to hear more information about it. And so, Diva, is it time for good news?
It is. So, my name is Diva Alfaro, and I am, I think, 5 years?
Yes.
Wow, 5 years maybe of being a Rotarian. I am the public image chair, I believe. And I am the solution senior consultant for Deloitte.
So congratulations. That is a brand new assignment for you. And
Yes.
we know that you were excited to be going to work for
Long
Deloitte.
time
and
coming.
we're excited for you also. So thank you so well, guys. Glad, and we'll talk about the fashion show which we have coming up and the Action 360 after our speaker. We're glad you're here. And let's pop Craig into the room and then get him to introduce himself as soon as he gets dialed in. Craig, we're glad to see you. I can see you're connecting to audio. Craig, say hello and introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Craig Jung. I'm a dentist in St. Dimas. I am a 7 or 8 year member, past president. I think that's it.
Excellent. Well, Craig, we know you're at work there. April 11th, I believe we're going to have the Chamber Coffee Hour mixer. Will be there at Via Verde dental offices, and so I'm excited. You're going to co-host it with the Rotary Club. Is that correct?
Correct. I think it's from 8:30 to 9:30
It is.
at our office. Yeah.
Very excited to be down there with you. So let's go right to our speaker. Jimmy Karam joined the Navy at the age of 17 with the hope of one day flying jets, and determined to make up for his checkered academic past by entering the Naval Nuclear Engineering pipeline, the Navy's most challenging academic track. After 4 years in the Navy and 4 attempts, he was finally accepted into the United States Naval Academy. And during his senior year, he finally got to fly in a jet. Jimmy says of that flight, "I never had a better time throwing up." From there, he began a career as a supply corps officer, essentially a business manager, eventually earning 2 MBAs from USC Marshall's Business School, along with 2 awards, Best Business Plan and the Marcia Israel Award for the most outstanding entrepreneurial graduate student. Finally, he had a chance to give back to a younger generation as the Economics Department Associate Chair at USNA. He also coached on the USNA varsity sprint football team, that's the United States Naval Academy, think lightweight football, and served as an officer representative for the United States Naval Academy varsity baseball team. After realizing his passion for mentoring adolescents and young adults, he decided to earn a second master's degree, this time in performance psychology, so he could have a lasting impact on his community. Jimmy Karam. Boy, I'm gonna get that. Jimmy Karam says, "I couldn't be more proud than when I earned the credentials as a certified mental performance consultant administered by the Association for Applied Sports Psychologists." Jimmy Karam is the owner-operator of Jimmy Karam Consulting, and welcome to the Rotary Club of San Dimas. We're excited to have you with us.
Hey, well, thank you for having me. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah, so that's kind of my background in a nutshell. And so I've been since I got certified, I've been doing this, and I've kind of migrated towards youth and young athletes, and so that's kind of where I focus my presentation on today. Is it okay if I share my screen then? Put that up. I've got a PowerPoint. I'm just going to walk through the PowerPoint kind of thing. It should be pretty harmless, I think. Let's see. I want to be on number 1. All right. Okay, so you guys can see my this is kind of my title page. So Jimmy Karam Consulting is what I run over is basically what I run with one-on-one youth athletes. I am certified through the Association for Applied Sports Psychology, and so this certified mental performance consultant basically, and so it allows me to kind of gives me the credentials to work with athletes. I work with athletes from as young as 10 years old all the way up to like Division I athletes. I have this new logo here. It's called Intrinsic First because about 2 years ago I started up this company. Last year we got our first contract. We actually teamed up with Deloitte, so that was kind of cool. We work with the Department of Defense, and what we do there is we provide professional services. And I've got about a staff of 10. 4 of them are basically credentialed in some type of leadership mental skills, performance. So we incorporate that into the corporate America. So that's kind of like my corporate business. So again, Jimmy Karam Consulting is what I use for athletes and parents, as I'm going to kind of talking about this. This presentation I prepared was to give you an idea of, we're going to use motivation as an example. We're going to redefine it for you today, and hopefully in 15, 20 minutes here. And then my method is a performer-centered approach. And then I'm also going to show you the framework I use for when I talk about mental skills. So that's really my core essence, is mental skills, how to get people to put themselves on a path of, basically give them skills and tools to cope with adversity, give them some tools to basically deal with anxiety. As we know, going back COVID, anxiety was kind of the number one topic to go through. But before I kind of jump into all that, I hope you guys don't mind the blue soccer ball. I did this for a client. I really like the blue soccer ball, so I'm kind of using it for today's presentation as well. All right, let's see. Here we go. All right, cool. So let's just start off real quick with this. Hopefully, get some interaction here. But I just want to talk about motivation for a few minutes here. I'm kind of curious to know what everybody here. I know, Casey, you're a life coach. So I'm kind of curious to know what everyone here thinks about motivation. What does it mean to you guys? If you don't mind me taking a moment here to hear what you have to say.
You guys want to do the right answer first?
Just, yeah. So
that was just for Raymond.
So what do you guys have? So
motivation gets you moving. I'll start there.
Yes, I agree with that 100%.
I would say that I guess that motivation is the force that moves you. The force, whatever it's from Newton's law. There has to be a force to get something moving, and so it is that thing which gets an object or a person moving in a direction.
Good. I like that a lot.
It can be a bad direction or a good direction. I think that the directionality of motivation isn't positive or negative. It's just movement.
Yeah, in fact, science, so everything I do is backed by science. And I like that comment there, because I think of motivation into, it's either optimal or it's suboptimal. That's kind of how we define it in one aspect. Good, great. Anyone else? Craig, do you have anything for us, or did he just disappeared on us?
Toss in there, just Jimmy, you can play with it. Motivation is short term.
Short term. Oh, interesting. And help me understand that a little more.
Meaning motivation doesn't last the duration of life. You've got to remotivate. It gets you moving, but there's other things that keep you moving.
Good. I like that. And so that, there's an analogy you just reminded me of, where you think of like nutrition, right? Where you have pizza, it tastes really good now, but it's not long lasting effects, right? Where maybe you have a piece of fruit, it still tastes good, but it could actually sustain you a little bit longer, maybe. So that's a good way of looking at it. But you have to keep eating, right, to keep that going. So yeah, I like that a lot. So we're going to come back to this notion of what is motivation. I'm going to take you on a trip today in about, again, 10-15 minutes. I'm going to explain performer-centered approach is what I use. It's kind of what you think about. It's very intuitive. It's not very, it's basically, I just kind of talk about it in terms of a tailored approach, right? And so what I define as a performer-centered approach, it's just a personalized approach to mental skills training, okay? So I am a trainer, I am a coach, I'm a consultant, I'm not a therapist. I just want to make sure that's clear. We get confused a lot of times with sports psychologists. We help sports psychologists, but we use mental skills training to get our message across. And what I do is I take into account the needs, the preferences, and the strengths of each performer. Okay. And then what I take that, I design a training program that meets the performer's specific needs. Now, what's really important to understand here is this word of each, because that could mean basically each performer. I'm not just talking about the child. I'm not just talking about the coach, but most importantly, I'm also talking about a parent. Again, I'm dealing with 10 to 12-year-olds, sometimes 15, 16-year-olds. And this ecosystem that they live in is incredibly important to make sure everyone's speaking the same language, regardless of whatever principle I'm putting out there. Today, we're going to talk about motivation, but I just want to make sure you guys understand what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. And that's kind of my point of this presentation. So let's have a pop quiz. I'm gonna give you guys a quote, and let's see if you guys can figure out who said this quote. Okay, so this is the first. We'll take a few seconds here to read this. This very famous person said this. It's acting is all about emotion and energy. To really connect with your character you're playing and the audience, you have to be fully present in the moment to let your emotions flow freely. Anyone have any thoughts who said this? It's kind of a long quote, but Nope, I'm seeing some, not so sure. That no worries. Meryl Streep said this. Okay, she said this, and we all know who she is and all the great movies that she's played in. I'll give you another quote here. This individual said, "Half of my technique is the mental clarity and the ability to allow myself to be in the moment." Again, not so famous, but very famous dancer said this. And she's very renowned for her mental toughness. I hate using the word toughness, but I think people understand it. That was Misty Copeland. Now, the last quote I'll give you, and then we'll kind of move on, is probably, hopefully some of you guys will pick this one up, but if not, no worries. And this individual said, hey, 90% of performance is mental. Any takers? Okay. This is one of my favorite quotes, and it's done by the famous Yogi Berra. All right. So what do they all three of them have in common? Any takes on that? What are those three quotes I kind of quickly threw up there? What do they have in common?
It's all in your head.
It's all in your head. I love that.
Everything we can control up here.
That's exactly right. Control is an aspect. And that control is a great word. You just triggered another thought of mine, right? Casey, you're on a fire here. So control is, and again, when we talk about mental performance, we're talking about things that we can control. And it's super important to understand what we don't control. And then we can just kind of dismiss those as distractions. And that's kind of half the game. So here's the framework that I use. I use this in every workshop, every training, every one-on-one. And it's this little pyramid here. This is what I call the 3 stages of mental skills training. So depending if I'm giving you a workshop on let's see here. It is your why. Yes, Steven, thank you. I just got that. So the self-awareness, depending on what workshop, whether it's on self-confidence, whether it's on motivation, whether it's on self-talk, whether it's on basically relaxation methods, it's going to hit one of these 3 categories. The first one is basically self-awareness. That's the one I kind of roll with first. So self-awareness is just done through information, through experience and education. So it's kind of like taking inventory of how you're likely to behave in a specific environment and considering what thoughts and feelings influence your behavior, right? So it's understanding how to label the process in order to replicate those optimal outcomes. It's education. It's kind of like what I'm doing here today by just offering you information of how I do my business, right? So self-awareness is kind of presenting this education to an individual, to a team, to an organization. And I want to label their actions. And that last part, what I said earlier was, if I can label your actions, and then that increases the odds of me being able to, or help you replicate that optimal performance. The second one I go to is self-regulation. So self-regulation is also done through experience and experimentation. Okay, so you have to, it's basically the ability to deliberately and proactively manage your feelings, your thoughts, and the purpose for your immediate and sustained positive effort. So here's how I look at that. A stimulus happens, something happens to you, and you may or may not be able to control what just occurred. But the one thing you do control is how you respond to it. And creating that space between the stimulus and your reaction is kind of where I put the essence of self-regulation. And that's teaching people how to create that space so they can process what just occurred and then respond. And that's kind of where I go with self-regulation. The last one, which I'll spend a little bit more time on here, is self-reflection. And this is something we can all take time to do, right? But it's by evaluating your behavior against this model example you have. You know what you're supposed to do. Did you do it? And then, so it's taking time to kind of observe your actions and how you responded. Did you do what you practiced to do, right? It's this filtering process. And so this is what I wanted to share with you. I'm going to break out of this now, and let's pretend you're a parent and we're dealing with a child, and you bring your child to me to get help. And so what I show parents over and over again is the self-reflection part of it. Is basically I define it for them, and I define it for their player. So your child, your player. I say, hey, this is a filtering process to interpret what just occurred by evaluating and organizing your thoughts in a productive manner to continuously improve. That's a long definition. I understand that. I typically will break that down for them. And that's what we want our players, our children to do. It doesn't matter if you're 10 years old or if you're 19 years old. This is a skill that we're trying to embark on them. And so we take the time to help them organize their thoughts and to rationalize or make sure they understand how they're going to respond to what just occurred to them. And then here's the kicker for the parents. It can be coaches too. And I said, your role in all of this in helping a child self-reflect or teaching them how to self-reflect, the only role you have is to facilitate the process. And that's it. And so for most parents, they want to do, you know, for their child, but it's helping them just step back and just to facilitate the process. And I give them tools on how to do that. But the key here is to allow the child to learn how to continuously improve. I always say it's not about being right or wrong. It's just about getting better. So that reframe typically helps kids who are really super competitive at times. But the goal is to help your child discover themselves through performance. And that's kind of my underlying message for them. Now, let's get back to, let me pause there for a second. Are there any questions for me before I kind of get to the last part?
Jimmy, do you explain this to parents before you engage with them, or did they get engaged with you and then ask you, okay, what are you really doing because it's working? I'm just curious what role usually goes first.
I'm usually contacted by a parent. Word of mouth is probably the best way it goes about it. And they say they come to me because their child has some behavior or something that's going on that the parent doesn't agree with. So they bring that problem to me. And so I have them take a step back. And typically what I found, and most of my clients at this moment are between 10 and 12 years old. And what I find is that it's not necessarily the player or the child, but more so the parent and the behavior of the parent is embarking on that. Is how are they giving feedback? Are they actually listening to their child? I have one parent, let me stop sharing so I can see you guys. One parent came to me because of the car ride to the game, and they were really worried about their child preparation for the game. And this is for a 10-year-old, this child is doing exceptionally well, but yet it's that car ride to the game that the parent is worried about because their child doesn't talk. They're kind of, and so a lot of what I found myself in this interaction with mother and the father is that it was just kind of through self-discovery. Again, the performer in this case, what I was concentrating on was the parent, not necessarily a child. And what I come to find out, and she kind of discovered it in one of our sessions, was that, hey, I get nervous and I just talk a lot. And so that was kind of a breakthrough for her because she was kind of projecting her anxiety on her child, and it wasn't, the child was not responding the same way that the mother was. And that made her nervous. So that, I don't know if I answered your question, but so I kind of have to take a step back before I kind of deal with whatever the problem they bring to me. It's probably some underlying issue. And that's kind of where I try and do a little bit of self-exploration with them so they can discover what's really going on and how to improve. Did I answer your question there, Casey?
So,
Okay.
yeah. Before we move off of that, and I think that I know that Casey probably, and maybe Diva to a lesser extent, all of us have had children who've gone through sports programs.
Yep.
In coaching Little League, my experience was that it'd be great if it weren't for the parents being involved. So how much of your work with children is overcoming really the interference of parents?
So I would say the younger the child is, the higher percentage that answer is, right? So like 10 years old, 90% of the time it's the parents, right? If as the child goes into college, it's less of the parents, because that when a student athlete goes to college, the parents are typically removed from that equation. So now I'm just dealing with the athlete. So the younger the athlete, the younger the client, then the higher percentage I'm dealing with the parents.
So my second part, before we leave this the issue of self, was that's the hardest word in that paradigm there, is self-awareness, from self-regulation, and then how do you train to overcome self-deception? I guess is
Oh, so there's lots of ways. So depending on when that self-deception creeps in, is it
Uh-huh.
before the competition, during the competition, or after the competition? And depending on when that happens for the athlete, well, for the performer, I'll say, will depend on how I deal with that. You know, is it self-talk that usually one of the quickest ways to get to it is what is your self-talk, and then helping them recognize negative thought patterns, and then giving them tools to deal with that and overcome those negative thought patterns, right? And I want to stress the self, because you picked up on it, which is super important. But when we talk about a performer-centered approach, remember that performer isn't necessarily the child or the athlete. It can mean the coach, and it can mean most of the time will mean the actual parent. You know, how is the parent performing, right? So think of it that way. So how is the parent performing in their interaction with their student athlete? And so that's usually, again, the younger the athlete, more times than not, I find the issues lying with how a parent is performing. So that's why I help them with their self-regulation, help them with their self-awareness, as well as their you know, just kind of bringing their whole self into it and helping them discover, you know, how can they do something better? How can they respond to their child better and in a way that's not so judgmental or deconstructive?
So that
Okay.
self you're talking about, you used a term earlier I really like, because it's the entire ecosystem around that performer, and that ecosystem changes as they move through life.
Correct.
Okay.
That's absolutely correct.
Okay.
And as children get older, and we see this as parents, right? When they become teenagers, right? We're not necessarily the dominant force or dominant influencer in their life. Becomes their friends, right? So I spent about 3 years. I live in Poway, California. It's you know, North County of San Diego, and I spent 3 years with the local high school, helping the team. And I spent a lot of my time in that situation was dealing with the players of the football. I worked on the football team there, and so I was dealing a lot with the you know, the I guess the teammates, right? The coach had an influence too, don't get me wrong, but really, again, when you're at teenage level, you know, you're in a different development stage, right? It's all about your friends, right? So that's where I spent a lot of my time with that. So again, depending on the age of the performer will depend on where I spend most of my time.
Cool.
Any other questions? That was fantastic. Thank you. So let me bring it home. I only have a couple more slides, and I'll bring this home, and then we'll chat some more. So let me bring that back up again. So that's one. Okay, cool. So this is where I left you, and so now what I want to do is just kind of go to let's go to this last. The first question I had for you was, what is motivation? And so we had a lot of good answers, and when I ask parents this, it typically stumps them a little bit. They have to take some, you know, pause and take some time to reflect on what is motivation. A lot of the answers I get from parents is like, it's, you know, motivation is something that they do to their children. How do I motivate? That's probably the number one question. How do I motivate my child? Like, what do I need to do to get them out of bed or go to practice or to play the piano, whatever the case may be? And so this is a huge kind of thing that I want them to kind of observe, that motivation is really not something you do to somebody. Okay. It's about creating that supportive environment that enables a person to discover the, you know, the drive within themselves. Right. And that's kind of a key point, is it's about creating the supportive, as a parent, your job is to create this supportive environment to help your child discover who they are, what they want to do, and then kind of when that discovery is sustaining. So we talked about, you know, is motivation sustainable? And I believe it is over time, as long as you have 3 things. And this is backed by science, but and the 3 things are, you know, do you have that community around you, this connectedness that's formed with you and your family and your peers and your team? That's super important, is community, the sense of community. The second one is a sense of competence. Am I getting better at what I'm doing? That's going to keep me going, right? We all drive towards success. So if I feel like I'm getting better at something, I'm going to keep doing it. And the most important one, the third one that I talk about motivation, is the sense of choice. Is it my choice to do the task that I'm choosing to do, or am I doing it because my parents are making me do it? Right. And that's where you start to see burnout. So choice is probably the number one important thing compared to community and compared to competence. All 3 of them are super important, but it's that notion of choice. Do I have that do I have the choice? Do I get to choose to do what I want, or am I doing it for someone else? And if you're doing it for someone else, then that's typically where you find it's not sustainable over time. Okay. Any questions on my definition of motivation? Great. That's basically my quick and dirty, my presentation. We covered quite a bit. I know I did it in super short time, but this is my quick information. I'll just put this out there. I do mental skills coaching for athletes of all ages. And I do corporate engagements. That's kind of my intrinsic first is all through corporate engagements. And then we have plenty of product out there as far as workshops. Shifting your motivational outlook and defining your propensity to trust are probably my two most common ones that we use. But yeah, that's kind of what I had to offer today. Hopefully this helps. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to keep the conversation going.
Well, let's throw it open to questions. I know I've asked several. I know Casey's probably got a question or two. Go ahead, Casey.
You're North San Diego, right, Paula?
Yeah, in Poway. Yep. Yep.
I can drive down and have lunch.
Yes, for sure. We're not too far away. Yes, Casey. Let's let me connect.
Jimmy, I love what you presented. I'm most impressed of your commitment to reach the youth. Love it. I've been engaged in that endeavor. And reaching the youth with the mindset, the motivation, and the ability to change their world. They are the most open to it, but it's also the hardest to reach because the parents stand between us and them.
Yeah.
And so congrats.
Thanks.
I drop a little invite to what I'm doing. I'll talk about it in my fine time. But Jimmy, I already messaged you. We will follow up and be in touch.
Very, very cool. Thanks, Casey. I look forward to it.
I'm a fan, I'm engaged, and I will be on the journey with you.
Right on. Looking forward to it. That sounds great.
Do we have other questions? Okay, so I got a couple of questions. The first is I like Casey. I think it's interesting working with young adults. Do you work anything along gender lines, or is it just age groups? Do you have a particular, do you work boys or?
Yeah, that's a great question. I asked that question early on when I started this out. Is there really a difference how I would interact with a female versus a male athlete, right? And I've had more success focusing on age groups because I can focus on where are they at in their child development, right? And so that I had much more success with it. It doesn't matter if it's a football team or a softball team. My skills kind of go across. And what I learned, the reason why I say that is because where the biggest difference for me, and because there's some debate on how young can you go? How young can you teach mental skills? And I would say you could teach that at 5 years old. Naturally, you wouldn't give them the full lecture, but maybe just a slide. And one of the things I've noticed, I just want to share this because this is probably more important. A lot of parents don't understand. Is prior to the age of 10 years old, most athletes, most children don't have this concept of abstract thinking. It has to be concrete for them. And what I tell parents, and they always balk at this at such a young age, this concept of team is very abstract. Mm-hmm. And so they don't understand it because it's more ego, right? It's like, it's me. And so what I share with them is that if you just have them focus on being the best version of themselves at such a young age, then everybody around them will benefit. As long as they don't do it at the expense of others, right? Because we're all self-interested. So the question is, are we going to do it at the expense of others? And so the key for a young child to learn is, I want you to be the best version of yourself, but don't do it to hurt other people. Do it in a way that's productive. And then society together will benefit from that. And that usually, because they always want to hit team right away, and the kids may be 5 or 6. They don't get it. They don't get it because developmental wise, mind wise, they're not there yet. No. So yeah, I go through age development.
If you only got to watch 2 and 3 year olds, it's impossible for them to play together. That is a skill we learn. And some people never learn to play nice together. And that's, we all know those people, right? That don't ever make it past 10 years old. Absolutely correct.
Yeah.
I have one more question and I'll turn it back over to everybody else in case there's another one. I want to go back to the idea of self, because you had that was real prominent in your whole thing. What do you do with a young person and when you take self-reflection and not turn that into beating yourself up,
Yes.
into finding productive ways to be better next time?
So there's two questions I would ask them for the individual themselves. Like, so I coach football. I mean, football is my sport, but I have plenty of coaching experience in baseball and others. But typically what I'll ask an athlete or a team together after any competition or performance, even practice, I'll ask them two questions. One, hey, what went really well for you? You know, what did we do together as a team? What went really well? So that kind of frames the idea. They're thinking of all the good things that happened, right? And then the second question I'll ask them is, hey, what can we do to get better? Now they're thinking about the future, how I can work on my jump shot. I can work on my, conditioning, whatever the case may be. Now they're thinking about, and I stop there. I don't talk about the past. I don't talk about what you did wrong. I just frame it in a very, because those are, what went really well. It's kind of a way to self-reflect on all the good things that occurred, right? And then what can I do to get better is that what do I have control of now? These are things that I have control over, and now I can take action on them. And so that's how I so there's no judgment. And then for parents, to answer your question, for parents, I teach them how to actively listen to their child. I teach them informative language, which is basically just making observations and letting your child kind of reflect on what you just said, not asking questions. And the third thing I can teach them is how to provide appropriate feedback to their children. And the key about all of that is to make sure it's not judgmental. Kids are going to model our behavior. They're going to model our actions and our questions and our language. And so if you keep it positive, you keep it moving forward and not in a way that's demeaning or, dwelling on the past kind of thing, but keeping it positive and moving forward, the kids will pick up on that. And that's kind of how I kind of combat that.
No matter what you say, they're always going to do as you do.
They do 100%, 100%.
So anybody have any questions before we move into the next phase of the meeting here? And we hope that you hang around because there's lots of stuff going on.
Of course.
Mike, did you have a question? I see you turn your camera on. Diva, go.
I was just going to say, great presentation. I think everything that you said, especially being that my son was in sports since he was like 3, and having him and some children not having the skill set or even the confidence. It's and what I saw even throughout the years, like kind of what Raymond touched on earlier about with the parents getting in the way. It is hard as a parent to kind of set aside and let them be who they want to be or who your kids want to grow into be as far as an athlete. But just seeing my own son progress and be great at sports, but also learning to be great for himself first. And that's when he became a great athlete, because he realized what was most important was he was good, then his team was good. So therefore, everything else was good. If that makes sense.
It does. You were sharing that's wonderful. I think sports is a fantastic fantastic vehicle to teach our kids life skills, and so
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. So thank you for sharing all that.
Of course.
Other questions?
I just want to say I did appreciate your talk also. I could think of a lot of people in my life where it relates to. I have a 4-year-old who I feel like I might be that parent already. He just started basketball and he doesn't want to play basketball. He doesn't really have fun. But we did soccer also, and he loves soccer. And I think I see the difference in how I approach things. So I hope you're around in 6 years or still doing this 6 years.
I love doing this. My youngest is 10, my oldest is 23, but I love teaching. I hope to continue teaching and providing my services for years on end, for sure.
Yeah, so I see how beneficial it is what you do. And then even some employees I have one guy he said he had mental health issues.
Yeah.
And I didn't know how to deal with that. And I was trying to help him improve, and I think it was the same thing. I just wasn't approaching things well. And so I could see how I need to change things in that regard.
Yeah, so I mean, I know we're talking about youth and sports and life skills, but some of these skills I'm learning through Intrinsic First, where we deal with we work in the defense sector and corporate professionals, and many of them don't have these skills figured out yet. How to deal with anxiety, how to deal with challenges that face them, and so the same things that I'm teaching a 10-year-old, I can teach a 51-year-old too. so it just crosses, so many different domains and age groups for sure.
Excellent questions. We're going to move. We're at minute
Yeah.
41, and I really appreciate it. And I'm going to say that the thing that you said, that I think your goal being the best version of yourself, I don't know that there is another goal in life, but that's the one I really liked. Hey, let's move into the Fine Master, because let's keep this rolling here. Fine Master Casey.
All right, I'm going to find myself. I'm going to jump in. I'm going to take the time. $5 first for me to talk about Jimmy. Jimmy, I'm going to give you back something I heard, is that you talked about community, confidence, and choice. Community, when you invest in your community, you will yield greater support. When you invest in your confidence, you will yield a greater success. When you invest in the choice is when you discover and yield self-awareness, and it wraps right back into your program. Love how you brought that together. Don't know if you made those connections to tie it back into your program, but genius, my friend. Great job. I put in our chat thread just an invite. I've started a new initiative called group coaching. Love working one-on-one with people, but gosh, there's just not enough time of the day to reach one-on-one for the rest of the world. So group coaching is available, doing exactly what Jimmy's talking about. How do we unlock the power of choice so people's self-awareness comes into this process? I'll give it to you guys absolutely free, because I'm selling it to somebody else, so you might as well fill the room. If you follow that link, you can register. You get 2 weeks free. But if you just want a Zoom link, it's my Zoom link. I'll send it to you guys because you're Rotarians and friends. My next meeting, I'm doing 3 a week right now to get motivated and priming that pump. So it's Monday morning at 6 a.m. It's Tuesday at noon and Thursday at 7 p.m. Any of those times that work for you, let me know, and I will get you connected. I'm having fun. That's the best part about it. I'm having fun watching people have those breakthroughs, Craig, like you're talking about coworkers. We don't know where to send people to, and we need something that is safe, friendly, and anonymous. But you can't go if you're not willing to show up. So group coaching is not anonymous, but it's on Zoom, and it's 30 minutes, and we're going to move you to a place that you haven't been before. So that's my soapbox. I need to find myself another $5, so $10 for the time I took.
10, that's right. Yeah, I was gonna say 10 sounds good to me.
Somebody else want to find themselves? What's good? What's not good? What's fine? What do you want to say?
I'll find myself $10. And it was just the news that I started at Deloitte on Monday. Long time coming. I was being very anxious, but I figured somebody had told me, well, it's a big company and they're going to, really, really do a deep dive look. Bye, Craig. Into you. So just be patient. So
Bye, everyone. Sorry, I have to go.
All right, bye. And so yeah, it's so far so good. Just a lot of research of the company. I didn't realize I needed to do so much research. So that's what I've been doing. But one thing I will say is they asked me to write a little tidbit about myself and what my motto was. And the one thing that stood out was, what we stand for. Is it the truth? Is it the best, or what is it? No, I forgot. It's on the spot.
4-way test. Mike's got it down.
I was like, I wrote it all
great.
out, and there you go, the 4-way test. I wrote it out, and I was like, oh my gosh, that totally is who I am. And that's what I wrote, because there was no other way of explaining myself and what I believe in is, want to make sure it's fair for everybody and
So, Diva, I'm going to interrupt you. And $5 a credit on the fines from me to you if you know what the business that Diva's now working for. Say it again, Diva.
Deloitte.
Deloitte. Who knows what Deloitte is? Who can tell us? Mike, go for it. I haven't heard from you today. What's Deloitte, Mike?
Deloitte is one of the big 4 CPA firms. They actually may be the largest currently. It kind of goes in waves as far as who is the largest in the U.S., who's the largest worldwide. But audit, tax, consulting services, test services across every industry in every country around the world.
Well done, Mike. Either you can have a coffee, I'll bring it to your office, $5 there, or you can have $5 credit and I'll put it on your account for fines. Anything else you want to add today, Mike?
Yeah, I'm going to apply that $5 to fining myself for being late. And I was on a call that ran a little late, and I'll throw in my own 5. So we'll make it 10 for my tardiness.
Hey, Jimmy, want to recognize that we are a small but mighty group. We actually are 3 times larger than this, but we don't all show up. But when we do, we make a mighty impact. Recognize that you are welcome to come back on a regular basis. You've got the right energy. You got the right mindset. We changed the world as a little mighty Rotary group because we believe in what you're doing, and we each are applying it in our own circles. So consider being a part of the San Dimas Rotary. We are virtual, and you can do it.
Okay,
No,
so
thank you.
Fine Master, any other fines? Because I'm gonna go find myself my oldest grandson. He's 25. He asked me, "What's it like to be the youngest grandfather I know? My birthday is tomorrow." Apparently, and I said, "Well, what other decrepit old people are you hanging out with?" So that was quite a backhanded compliment, I think. So I feel a little older this week after having the 5 days of 19-hour shifts, Glenn, and lifting 5 tons of food in and out of trucks. But that's my $5 for my birthday. So let's move on. Let's talk first off RYLA. RYLA has been put off. That's Rotary Youth Leadership Academy. We did the selection process. Unfortunately, because of the weather, they're going to move the dates for RYLA back. We'll see what happens. It may well be that RYLA gets moved into next year and that our money is still good. So I'm not going to worry about it. But I want to thank Sean and Casey and who else worked with you guys on that? Steve Scott, to get those students selected. Also, the Satellite Rotary Club.
And I emailed the president of the Interact Club and just let her know, just in case she didn't get that email.
Okay.
So I didn't hear back, but they're aware.
Also, Mike was on that, worked on that committee. Thank you very much, Mike, for getting that done. So RYLA is on hold. Satellite Club meets tonight. The speaker is a retired naval captain, Stephen Andres. He'll be speaking about the career of the USS Midway. He is a docent on the Midway, so that's going to be a good program tonight. We get down to the calendar, I'll show you the stuff's going on. We have been invited to Palm Springs for the Armed Services YMCA's 30th anniversary out there. That celebration is on this Monday. I need a hard yes from you if you're going to go. We have a table out there. We're not going to be recognized for anything. We're guests of theirs. Patrick was really clear on this, unless it was a setup, but I think he's pretty clear. It is business professional. It'll be at the Agua Caliente Casino. It's not at 29 Palms. So we have to leave by 8:45 in the morning for a 2-hour lunch. We went back till the afternoon. If you want to go, I need a hard yes, need an email. Otherwise, I'll make arrangements for whomever I hear from by about 2 o'clock this afternoon. Any questions on Palm Springs? 2026 committee is still meeting, coming up very quickly. If you're interested in that, get back on that train. That is the committee in the community that is planning the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence here in San Dimas. And then lastly, the last thing we're really moving, we've got to start moving fast on, is the fashion show to support the House of Ruth, the domestic violence shelter. Diva, we need to come up. Did we come up with a meeting for?
We did not. What I could do is, if because it has to be, well, I would prefer it to be Zoom, just because I'm trying to get my schedule all together. I've been in meetings all like the last couple of days, all day. I would say noon would be best for me.
All right, so do this for me. Do you think by next week a noontime meeting is more reasonable for you? Because we got to get.
Yeah,
all right.
I think so.
Send me.
I'll let you know by the end of today.
All right.
And I'll to see where, what day. I would hope I'm going to try to push it for the beginning of the week if you're available, if everybody's available, just
Okay.
so we kind of get that stuff going.
Okay. All right. We got to get everybody together, get going on that. For the food drive we just finished, we did collect over $15,000. And we're going to give a check of $5,000 to the Armed Services YMCA out there at 29 Palms. The other $10,000 is for the Satellite Rotary Club of Military Family Support. That's their money. Some of it's set back for next food drive, some setback for the Marine Corps dinner that's coming up on November 10th. But the biggest thing that's going on is, for those of you who've been out there, the issue is the storage out there. And so Patrick, the ED of the ASYMCA, was looking for a Connex trailer. We found in Port Hueneme a 40-foot Connex trailer for him for free. We had to get it transported out there. Of course, we have money. Then I went to Ed Perry, and for those of you who don't know, we transported the food out to 29 Palms in a 53-foot van with a tractor trailer rig. And when I went over and spoke at Holy Name of Mary, the contact I made was Ed Perry, who's the president of United Pumping, a large company with about 30 trucks. He said he would truck every day. Anytime we wanted the truck, we got it. He agreed to do the Connex for free. The next step is I have a meeting next week with the chief of staff on 29 Palms Military Base to get the forklifts for free to take the Connex off the trailer. And then what I want to do is talk to Satellite Club about using the $1,000. Mike was out there, the $1,000 to outfit the Connex with shelving, electrical, and the different things they'll need to make it actual stuff. And you were out there, Mike. What'd you think?
I thought it was great. I know I mentioned this the day of, but when we had all of the food ready and staged inside the Masonic Lodge, it was very impressive. The food drive was a tremendous success, and then as soon as we started loading it up, it looked like nothing. And I was so confused. I finally, walked around the side and saw the size of this truck. And I mean, the two trucks that we took out there last year, the U-Haul and the stake bed dump truck, I think both of those could have fit inside of this truck. So it looked like a very nominal amount of food that we were bringing up there because of the size of the rig. But then when they started unloading it, it just kept coming and coming and coming. So I would say it was at least as much as we brought out last year as far as food, because we packaged everything, sorted, packaged. Everything was very dense and well organized and efficient. But yeah, it was a great day. And I think we're learning and getting better each time we do this. They were ready for us with probably 20 Marines to unload everything, which was wonderful because I burned myself out loading up and was not looking forward to getting all of that food off the truck. But yeah, it was great day, and I think we're making more progress toward a permanent pipeline of food to help with the Pelican Pantry out there.
We've got the transportation and the collection handled. Now we're looking for warehouse space for permanent collection out here. So lots of moving forward on that. Let's go to the calendar real quickly. Keep us on this hour schedule. You see what coming up. Okay, so tonight at High Point Brewing Company and online will be Captain Stephen Andres from the retired naval captain on the Midway. Next week, we'll have as a speaker Wen Chen on human rights in China. We will be supporting Strike for Success on March 30th. That is the Chaparral High School's night. Okay, Ryla on April 4th is canceled until further notice at the pizza place. On April 5th, the Satellite Rotary Club has Chuck Jameson. He is the California State Commanders Veterans Council Secretary. And then we've got another great speaker on the 19th for us of April, and that's Think Outside the Box by Marilyn Sanderson. She's a former district governor down in San Diego for a Rotary district. And on April 19th, it is the World War II Museum with Lou Schumann. He's a retired Army major. Lou comes back for our meeting in May, and he's going to talk about his career in broadcasting. He did over 2,000 college games. So it's Hoop Junkie is his book. And then the next great speaker we have is Dr. Michael Merzenich. He's got a book, Softwired, How the New Science of Brain Plasticity Works. This guy's actually a very famous Harvard doctor, so that'll be really cool program we got coming up. And then ABC's a networking, and then we're pretty much close to my end of the year as president, and Steve will be taking over, but we're working on next year's calendar. So before we go, does anybody have anything they want to add?
I was going to throw out, we'll wait to hear what we hear from Ryla, but I think because we got the applications in, I think we should have an evening. We can do it at Elba, but a pizza and a mini Ryla encounter. I can put games together, activities together. We'll bring Jimmy in, but just to engage these high school students to give them 2 or 3 hours of leadership development and success and reward for putting in the application and doing the work. I think we get a bigger bang for the experience bringing them in first. And then if Ryla opens up, then we know even better what to go forward with. So that's my thought. I'll run with that if we want to wait, or do we want to do it? We can talk later.
I'm for doing it. And I think we bring in all of the kids that are even the alternates. And even though they're not selected, and we have an hour thing, we do pizza. That's not a problem.
Are we interpreting, sorry, Raymond, are we interpreting postponed until further notice as may not happen?
Well, I will tell you that postponed till, if they were to try to set this all up at the end of April, that's when district assembly is on the 22nd. So that weekend's out. And if they were to try to do it in May, well, that's when district conference is. And then when they try to do it in June, well, the year's done. So
yeah,
I think it's going to pass, Mike. I think we had low numbers as well. And I think it's a convenient reality that we got so much snow in the mountains that it was like, you know what, this is just a risk. It's not worth it. I think it's going to get rolled. That's kind of why I'm saying, let's step up and do something to let these kids know you guys applied, you put your names out there. We see you, we hear you, we want to connect with you. This is what we can bring to you.
Let me do this, Mike. That's a good question. Let me reach out to Regatta and ask her for a good, like a real honest, candid answer on this. And I'll through email get back to everybody. And based on what she says, I think we will look forward, moving forward. We got some time. How's that sound?
Sounds
okay.
good.
Anybody got anything else? Awesome. All right, everybody. If those of you who will be there tonight, also for the meeting at 6 o'clock, hope to see you then. Thank you again, Jimmy.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.